Hey, print hustlers, welcome back. We got Mr. Kevin Baumgart here. Fun episode. We're diving in, getting to 1 million in sales. So this is, look, if you're way above that, maybe you could skip this. Actually, maybe it's a good refresher because Kevin's a beast at sales. Don't skip it because Kevin's here. We appreciate you being here. But Kevin's here. He runs Sales Inc. He's got an academy. He does one-on-one consulting. He has a really cool cohort. They have a third group that's starting. That's all at sales.inc. But real quick, we are going to dive into the details of going from roughly 500K in sales to about 1 million in sales. And what are the things in the engine to get started and trying to get really tactical tools to download, tips to start using, and things that you guys can start working on Monday. But we've got 4 incredible sponsors here. And if you guess this first one, shoot me an email so I can send you a little gift for listening. All right, drum roll.
Week.
Multicraft. All right. If you've heard of multicraft_daddy, then you are amazing. Why? Because if you need ink supplies or daddy, Multicraft screen printing and digital supplies have been around for over 50 years, providing you with top brands at competitive prices. Even better, mention PrintavoPod and that gets you 10% off your first order. Follow them on multicraft_daddy and send Dave a direct message on Instagram with your email address. He's sending out a bunch of free stuff, PMI tape and all kinds of other stuff every single week to people who message him. And that is awesome. Easy way. If you're spending hours cleaning screens, that's a thing of the past. Easy Ways screen printing and screen cleaning chemicals have innovative formulas that are designed to work quickly and effectively. So you can spend less time cleaning and more time creating. Plus, or selling. That's what we're going to talk about. Yeah. Plus, Easy Way is passionate about empowering printers of all skill levels. They offer helpful resources and expert advice to help you succeed in printing. Graphic Source. Need a solution to improve efficiency and reduce costs in your art department? And Campus Ink is up to, I don't know, I still think it's about five graphics artists, be able to help him with a lot of store management or order management and production art. They do a ton more though. Creative art, mockups, SAPs, digitizing, back office admin, all that good stuff. They've been doing it for over 30 years. Mention PrintavoPod 24. PrintavoPod 24 gets you 15% off your first vector. All right, Supercolor. If you check out store.supercolor.com, this is so cool because they've really launched their new website. It's unbelievable to use. It's so fast to order stuff now there. My wife was just ordering transfers off there, and it was incredible. Supercolor is the world's best heat transfer. It's made for screen printers, by screen printers. They understand the pressures and expectations of running a screen printing business, and that's why they're super fast and super easy. Not only that, their support is incredible. It's like insanely fast, and they have an issue. If there's an issue, they literally ship the stuff out as quickly as possible and rush it back to you. So they're just an incredible partner for your shop as well. Printavo15, that gets you 15% off your order. That code is Printavo15.
Bruce, I want to tell you about the best new sophomore platform to hit the industry. It's called DGI Apparel. It was built by a group of really smart guys, MIT engineers with a background in screen printing. DGI allows you to connect your accounts with Sanmar, Alpha Broder, S&S, and a bunch of other suppliers to compare prices, inventory, and shipping. You can check shipping times across every apparel supplier on one website. You know, the average shop spends 2 hours purchasing every day, and DGI is going to cut that time in half. Ask yourself, what would I do with an extra hour every day? And we actually don't have a promo code for DGI. They don't have a promo code for DGI because it's free. It's always free for shops to use. That's right. It costs you $0 forever. So if you're not already using DGI, you're wasting your own time and money. Sign up today at dgiapparel.com and join the 1,500 other shops that are saving time and money on their purchasing. I met these guys at DTF Expo, and at the time, they maybe only had a couple hundred shops using it, and they have absolutely blown up. So thanks so much for being a sponsor, Ian and the team. And check out dgiapparel.com and tell them we sent you.
All right, let's jump on in. All right, pronouncers, we're back. We've got Kevin Baumgart from Set Sales and Sales Inc. I'm Bruce from Printavo. Always love having you back. So thank you. I know you're in Los Angeles visiting. You had some meetings and things. and I was like, let's just do an episode about a couple different topics that I feel like come up on this podcast a lot. You were just doing a masterclass in sales with Steven.
Yeah.
Which that was really cool. You guys divulged a lot in there. We've got Berkeley. Berkeley's over there. This is our latest puppy. He's going to be joining in for some tips. One of the things, well, first of all, obviously, I think people know, but your background, you are running Set Sales, which is sales consultancy for a lot of print shops.
Yeah, just one-on-one shop coaching, consulting, helping them to grow sales.
That's awesome. And you're just telling me about a shop that you closed now, which is really cool. You've helped a lot of shops, I feel like, over the last couple of years.
Well over 100.
That's crazy.
I know, I stopped counting. It's been awesome, though. It's like, it's my job now. I get to do this full time.
We need it. I feel like we need it. Even as a product person on my end, when I was working on Printavo so heavily, sales, it's just like, kind of let it come in. Like, I feel like I'm better at the marketing side, and then we just let the leads dribble in and handle it from there, which I feel like most people that get into it aren't getting into it from the sales end anyway. They're getting into it from the, art or the printing,
creatives, the artists. Yeah, that's typically it. So it's a whole different way to look at it.
And you launched Sales Inc. I see you went through the first cohort. Now you're in the second.
We're on the third cohort of Sales Inc., which is a membership community. We get 15 shops together in non-competitive geographies and allow them to just talk about all things sales, support, collaborate. Part me delivering content, but part them communicating and connecting.
I actually don't know this, but how did the first and second go? What are some interesting takeaways from
Yeah, the first one's done. The second one, a little over 6 months through. I do surveys after the 6 month mark, and it's been pretty interesting, like the feedback that I've gotten. Part of them are like, it's about 50-50. 50% say the most valuable component is me being able to deliver content that I would in a one-on-one engagement with a lot of their peers. Mm-hmm. And the other 50% say the most valuable part is just being able to lean on other shop owners or salespeople and hear what's working for them or what isn't working for them, and just being able to share sales tips and tricks and ideas.
What was the biggest takeaway or tip that when they were talking about it, and it didn't have to be that something that you shared, maybe anyone else shared in the group, that everyone was like, whoa, hold on. We need to do this. Yeah.
I talked about this with Steven the last time I was on, but I think like the kitting in box strategy, the fact that if you do send someone a really well curated box of merch, apparel, hard goods, whatever, that they're not taking advantage of today with their logo on it, it sparks interest and intrigue. So it's just, I've heard shops do it, and then other shops have done it, and I only hear good stories. Not only on selling those items that are in that curated box, but also of selling kitting and boxing solutions overall. Like, people will actually now order kits for employees, for client gifts, for it's probably the most common topic, the biggest takeaway, but more than that, it's like the most valuable thing that they got out of the group that they started to really drive revenue from.
Every business owner gets an insane amount of unsolicited requests, like inbound requests for services to buy stuff, to do stuff.
Sure.
But when someone does send something, like I've gotten a book that makes me stop, just other random little products or things that are interesting, it 100% always makes me look it up.
Sure.
Even respond back, because they'll tie it. I find they tie the item with an email or some sort of reach out, text or email or call.
Love that. And
I'll respond back to it. And I know Dan Frank talked about this before with his shop. He uses, you probably know this, one of those sales like contact leads, those websites.
Sure.
And finds the ideal customers to target, sends the box, and sends the follow-up email chain from there.
Love it.
What tools are those again? It's like Rocket?
Lead gen tools. So UpLead or Seamless or Apollo. There's a number to try to get good contact information from specific metadata.
Right.
Market, industry, geography, size, role, title. All that's pretty easy to get. One other tidbit and strategy that we just shared in the group that I thought was pretty interesting. Because I just read a stat, we've doubled the amount of email that we sent over the last 2 years. The amount of email that we get
Are you serious?
is doubled, not send. The amount of email that individuals get has doubled over the last 2 years.
Well, someone's sending it too.
Someone's sending it to you, sure. So all the more reason that we have to get creative with outreach. So a shop had, think about certified mail or FedEx envelopes or UPS envelopes. When's the last time you got one of them that you didn't open?
Yeah.
Never.
Good point.
You're going to open them always.
Yeah, you're right. With
It's
that flat
it's important.
envelope, the FedEx one, it's got red on the top.
Yep. So when you take that campaign strategy and add in something that you know they're going to get their eyes on, you can delete emails pretty easily, but you're going to get your name in front of them and like some creative communication on that letter, whatever's inside of there. Hey, I know I've reached out a ton. Apologize. I know I sent you a ton of emails, LinkedIn connection requests. I've called. I really wanted to make sure that you got this, but not about you. Then convert it to them. I know your industry. I know your role. I know what's important to you. Here's like people that I've worked with and we've really helped and supported. I'd love to just have a conversation to see if we can help you as well.
I love that.
Pretty impactful approach.
Yeah, that's a really great takeaway. The one thing I wanted to really talk about today is this gap between going from 500K in sales to $1 million in sales. You've helped a lot of shops. You've helped shops get there that are bigger, that are smaller and everywhere. But that feels like a range where the machines aren't working, like they're not, the repetitive cycles aren't there fully yet. You're building the systems. You're doing a lot as an owner at that stage. You don't have the processes just yet. And so there's a lot of confusion. Like you're just trying to get orders out the door. You're just trying to get money in the door. But if we can help shops see around the corner in this phase, I'd like to be able to divulge that into as many different steps and as tactical as possible today. Hold on one sec. Hold on. We're going to pause this. Let's break it down, right? I think there's a couple different categories that I pulled together. We've got people, revenue planning. We'll call it maybe like a forecasting type of thing, marketing / outbound and demystifying this, and a little bit more around tactics for the outbound. So maybe a subcategory of that. And that includes things like there's a saying here, focus on the phone. I'd love to hear more about that. Team training, niches, and systems. So anyway, that's the high level for us to be able to dive into. Maybe we can start off with people.
But before we do, I want to ask you a question. I talked to a ton of shops that have not hit that $1 million threshold. And when I ask them about revenue or growth goals or what they want to accomplish, almost always they say, I need to break the $1 million mark. Why do you think that is?
I think it's a big accomplishment. I think it's a
to get $1 million in revenue.
Yeah.
Like
I think it's a mental accomplishment, as in, there's 2 commas. I don't know, something with the million, it's a big significant number. It's a milestone. I think 100K is a big milestone. And then I think the next really big one is the $1 million.
It's interesting because I know if I'm talking to a shop, especially that's like 600K or below, like when I ask them about sales goals, it's almost always, I got to get to 7 figures. I got to get to $1 million in revenue, which I think is great. Like thinking about that. But now what can you do today to start putting that action in place to get to that revenue goal? That's what we're going to talk about.
So let's say we're between 300 to 600K or so. There's probably a couple people there, maybe up to 4 or 5 part-time, mix of part-time, full-time. I'm assuming the owner is doing all order entry. Maybe there's someone in the front desk helping with a wide variety of tasks. They're a generalist. They're really the right hand man to the owner. Okay, where do you start even thinking about that? Because I think now, I want to get to $1 million. Like you talked to the shop, I want to get to $1 million. Where does your thought process start?
Even before like thinking about people, the shop has to be willing to invest. They have to be willing to and want to grow. This doesn't just happen. It's not like, all right, I'm just going to double the size of my business. There has to be a concentrated effort to go and get it and to go do it. And it's it's a pretty interesting economic environment right now. Like you talk to shops all week, every week. So do I. Some of them are up year over year. Some of them are about the same, but a lot of them are down. So is it the right time to really level up sales and growth and dive in on that strategy when you're down or when you're up? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but like you have to consciously think about that strategy and that approach and make sure that this is the right time and I am going to put time and effort and focus into it. Otherwise it's not going to work.
Okay. That's a great point. So is this the right time that I want to spend on getting my sales numbers up unnaturally, I will say? Because if it's natural, you're just going to let it float here and there. It could go up, it could go flat, go down, whatever you said.
Yep.
That's a great thought process. How do I know if it's the right time, right? Because I know back at that stage, you're overworked. Like, there's no doubt about that. You're doing 18 different things. You don't have the staff to delegate to, is it the right time or not?
Yeah. I usually say like, you need to focus on it. I'm a proponent of if you're going to do it, you got to go do it. Like out of sight, out of mind, what would the opposite of that be? Like if you focus on it, it's going to happen. Like you got to live in it. I'm going to talk out of the other side of my mouth for a second. If your house isn't in order, if production isn't dialed, if art isn't there, if fulfillment isn't, like if you don't have systems, processes, and the back end of your shop dialed in, it's going to be pretty hard to focus on sales and focus on driving revenue. So you're right. They're stretched thin. They're doing a bunch of different jobs, but putting systems, process, automation, all of that in place and getting the back end of the shop in order is going to allow them, I think, to step into more focus on proactive, outbound, focus on like revenue generation and growth.
Got it. So it sounds like get production as much of a process as possible to start to free up time to focus more on front office types of things.
I think so. And then like, look at your calendar, look at how you're spending your day, like analyze what you do all day, every day. Is it customer service? Is it working with your team members? I work out of a calendar. If it's not in my calendar, I don't do it. So like, if that's the way that the shop performs well, calendar growth, just put 2-hour block every day that the team knows that you're focused on growing revenue and focused on this side of the business, not looking at emails, not communicating with the team, not training, not bagging, tagging, folding, like focusing on growth. I think that's really the only way that
that's a good point.
Step out of it.
And I'd actually challenge everyone to do that. The first thing of the day is the block on the calendar. If it's on the sales thing or whatever the most important thing is that's the first thing when you walk in. Because I swear, if I open my laptop and I open Gmail, and I'm starting to go through it, it's going to be 2 hours. I don't know what happened, in Slacks and everything else.
Totally. Working in this industry for long enough, I've now tweaked my schedule to focus the majority of my shop direct work in the morning because I know how chaotic the life can be. And the likelihood of a 3 or 4 p.m. call with a print shop and me running, super low.
Yeah.
It like focus it on the morning, focus that first thing.
Can I show you something that's been helping me? We're getting into like productivity stuff, but this I put on my phone so you could tell Siri to start a timer. So I've been doing kind of like the calendar blocks, but I'll do a timer. So I've got my task list. First thing I open it up and if it's like, okay, call and deal with this insurance thing. Great. 15 minutes. I started it. I started on my phone as a timer, and now with the new iPhone OS, you can turn it sideways and, well, it's supposed to be, but anyway, you turn it sideways and you sit it on your desk. And basically what it does is it flips into a, like an alarm mode. And then you see a timer and it fills up on the screen. I wish I could turn it on, but it doesn't look like I can.
And so that one task, you put a time frame on it and you know that you're going to focus on that task until that time frame expires.
And I'm trying to do it before the thing fills up.
I love it.
Maybe if this thing turns on, but I guess it's just not going to work right now. Anyway.
I love it.
So, okay. So you start to have the time and the willingness to say, hey, I want to be able to do this. I want to commit to it. Makes total sense. What's next?
You mentioned people. It's interesting. That doesn't,
Sorry, I remember why it doesn't work. You have to plug in the phone as well and turn it sideways, and then it will turn into like an alarm mode
on
thing.
to power it on. Yeah.
All right.
So we talked about people as a potential place to start. This doesn't mean that we have to hire. That the people component of focusing on growth and going out and doing it can be the shop owner, can be them. But they have to know that they have time available to focus on it and do that work.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be them. You can also hire someone to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Often I find shops, I talked about this with Steven, trying to move that customer success or account manager into that salesperson. Doesn't work very well. It's not what they like to do. They're not good at it. It's not their focus. They don't enjoy it.
Outbound salesperson or processing?
Correct. Okay. Having that,
because they're processing stuff now.
They're taking inbound orders. They're running the process. But if you do want to grow, there has to be a concentrated effort on like going out and finding more customers and actually going out and doing it. Mm-hmm. So the likelihood of that account manager or customer success person doing that successfully and well is pretty low, unless they really want to do it and they really enjoy the work and they want to transition maybe out of account management into sales. I see that working, but just transitioning someone because they know the business, like not always the right fit.
Okay.
So the beautiful part about hiring a salesperson is you can pretty clearly see payback time and ramp and understand how long is it going to take for me to get this person. If they do this revenue, we can map it out. We can model it out. How long is it going to take for them to pay back the investment that I've made in them? Easier said than done. It's a lot that goes into like recruiting and hiring and selecting the right person and onboarding them effectively and measuring and tracking their effectiveness day in, day out. But the nice part is if you get it right and they're successful, they're not only going to pay themselves back, they're going to propel you to that $1 million mark.
So this goes under revenue planning and forecasting in my mind, which is something we probably didn't do until we were around 2 million or so in sales, which definitely could have helped if we were going from call it the 500K to $1 million, as in, all right, hey, here's where I think our seasonality is. I know we don't have a ton of historical data, but here's where I think our seasonality is as far as, busy times, slow times. And here's where I think if we grew, 20% this year, here's the sales goals, the revenue goals that we should be hitting in a profitable way, to be able to, clip at that goal. And I'm not talking about in a year, but like maybe it's, hey, look, I think we can hit $1 million in 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. But here's sort of the monthly or quarterly. I've seen quarterly be a little bit easier as well because of the less fluctuations.
Yep.
To be able to hit. And I guess what we did that helps, you talked about calculating the return of a sales rep. I feel like I need to make a template for this because I felt this was one of the easier hires to make because of that, with the payback period thing. So like, first explain what you mean by, especially most people haven't really hired some sort of outbound sales rep that's pretty foreign. What do you mean by payback period? How do you think about ROI of this person and making it, because I think it's a little scary. It hasn't been done. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, they're going to process the orders coming in. Obviously, I understand that, but I don't understand that transferring someone hunting.
Yeah. That to calculate payback period, what I look at is like, how much have I invested in that person and what is that total cost, the burden labor rate of that individual month over month? Like, what am I investing in? Tools, technology, support. What is the total cost of this individual on my payroll? Calculate that pretty easily. So month over month, what does that cost? Now revenue comes in, they start to sell, they start to drive both revenue and profitability. How long does it take for me to get to that delta of here the expenses are going up, but then they flatten out and the revenue should now continue to go up and up and up. And now I'm offsetting that cost by net income or profitability. You just got to look at it month over month and model that out. You also mentioned revenue planning, like looking at, in 1 year and 2 years, this is where I want to get to revenue wise. We should be looking at it every month, especially with the seasonality in our business. What did I do in August of last year? I want to make sure that I do that much, but not just here's the revenue that I want to get, but also where is that coming from? Is it reorders? Is it net new business? I should not only be just tracking, here's the revenue that I want to get to, but here's how I'm going to get there. Here's how I'm going to drive that revenue. Again, it's like, if you plan it and if you're involved in it and you focus on it, way higher likelihood that you're going to be successful.
How do you help shops track something like that? Is it like HubSpot, or are you just exporting data and calculating
if a shop is, hundreds of thousands of revenue, the likelihood of them having a CRM that they use effectively is probably nil. So just use a Google sheet, use an Excel sheet.
Got
just
it. So wherever you're putting in orders,
track
dump it out.
Yeah, if you can take it out of the print shop management software and pull it into an Excel sheet, or if you can do it within that, either way, just build a really, really simple model for you to look at month over month. Here's where we need to be from a revenue perspective, and here's my thoughts on how I'm going to get there, and share it with the team. Hey team, this is where we need to be this month. This is the goal. We know these customers are likely going to be ordering this month. That should take us to this amount. Now we need to get more. We need to find more. Let's ask for referrals. Let's go out proactively and try to drive more revenue.
I built a custom like Chat GPT thing that can do that analysis for Printavo order data. And you can ask it any reporting question. It's really cool. If you want to try it, I'd love to link. It's like a private thing, but I'd love to link you to it. It's just shoot me an email, bruce@printavo.com.
And so you can say, hey, who ordered 9, 10, 11 months ago? Over $5,000, like whatever. That's awesome.
You can even say, last year, out of my top customers by order sales value, which are the ones who have decreased in sales this year? So last year compared to this year, and it'll give you that list. And it outputs this in 15 seconds versus in Excel that would take me 20 minutes.
Like a lot of shops have done that. Who ordered 11 months ago? Like that's an interesting one, but what customers have reduced in revenue, that's an interesting stat to look at. And I want to know the account manager or customer success person that's managing that account. And I want to know what they think as to why that's happening. And we can get into this, but like from a level of sophistication of managing those AMs and those CS folks, their KPIs, their metrics, how we score them and how we hold them accountable should be tied to that month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year revenue number and net income number from their customers.
Interesting.
If my book of business is 60 customers, I should know and be able to look at and understand how much each of them should be ordering this month and this quarter based on past historical data. And things happen with businesses, so that might go down, but I better be able to tell the shop owner that this is why they decreased. Maybe their business isn't going that well.
Interesting. What we did was, I was very scared to hire our first sales rep because I figured, well, I'm doing it. I don't know if this is going to pay back. I'm going to have this overhead. Like, does this make sense? I could just do it. And what I did was I put in an Excel sheet every single month what the payroll cost would be. So that's there's a base plus commission model. I put in the base right there and it kept adding up over the months, right? So let's say it's, simple numbers, $5K the first month, $5K the second month, and every single month's $5K. And on the second column, I could see the total amount of their salary. So it's 5, then 10, then 15, and so on. And then in the third column was my calculation of what is the revenue that they're bringing in. So obviously there's a ramp up time. It's not going to be like day one, they're going to have all this additional sales coming in. But, let's say let's call it 5% of utilization for 1 month. So if the goal of their quota is supposed to be, I don't know, 100K a month of sales, just throwing that number again out there, then the first 3 months, maybe like 5, 10, 15, 20% of that utilization. Basically, what I did is try to back into it to understand what should the sales rep be doing and bringing in sales wise. What is the profit margin on those sales that they brought in? What is the commission that I paid on it? And then what is the payback period? So based on all of the payroll that I was paying commission plus base and the ramp up of how quickly they were driving in sales, I would then know, okay, this person takes 7 months or 8 months to break even. And then the rest is gravy. Like the rest goes straight to the business.
Yeah.
And if it was, I thought if it was 10 months or less, I was in good spirits. But the most important thing I think that sheet gave to me is it helped me understand what the sales rep should be doing as far as a goal every month starting. And I showed it to him. I said, look, first week or so, hey, this is how this makes sense, right? For us to have you on full time. These are the goals that we need to be able to hit together. And then you make money, the company makes money, and we continue together. So it was so clear for them, for me. I felt really comfortable. And if they were going off path, we either had to correct, part ways, whatever the deal was.
Yep. And then those performance management conversations are much easier. Yeah. Hey, we talked about like, this is the amount of revenue that I need you to drive to make this make sense.
Yeah.
That transparency and just upfront.
We need to build this model. I don't think it'll be too hard. I have the basics. Anyway, we'll do it after.
Love it.
Okay. So this is first sales rep hire.
One thing that I wanted to comment on what you said prior, for rep payback in our industry specifically, this happens in most businesses. You mentioned you get to that point where it's gravy, right? Mm-hmm. In our industry specifically, if you provide a good product and good service, the likelihood of them reordering and coming back is incredibly high. So I think in our industry specifically, if you do a good job in getting a sales rep up to productivity and up to that point of, should we call it the gravy precipice? the amount of revenue that you will get or net income from that individual just skyrockets because you're going to keep them as a customer. You're going to drive good revenue from them long term. Yeah. This is not just when that salesperson is there. You got to get to that point though. You got to be willing to make that investment to get there.
I like it. Okay, so that's the first rep hire. I think there's a lot though that goes into the first rep hire. I mean, sure, all right, we understand. Maybe you really calculated, you spent an hour on this thing, and you feel like, yeah, it makes sense. This hire makes sense financially. After 6 months, they should be doing well, or we'll part ways and find someone else. Now let's talk about making them successful though, because there is a thought of, well, who are they reaching out to? What are they doing? What are they calling? Are they emailing? Are they like kidding? Or what are we doing here other than the inbound traffic that I'm getting? Because there's always that debate of, well, should I commission them on stuff that's coming inbound? Is that if an account manager is there, do they take that? And the other guy only takes what he's doing outbound. How do you see this work? With the caveat that, again, this is the kind of $500,000 stage where is probably not... There may be an account manager, probably the owner doing that.
Yeah. It's tough if you don't have someone in that space. And I'm a huge fan of specialization. Mm-hmm. Like, let's not have them do account management and customer success and outbound sales. Like, there's not many salespeople, people in general, that are good at all of those things. So if you have one person, you're going to have them wear multiple hats. I think a couple things. One, it goes down to onboarding and training and development. Like, give them the tools to onboard effectively. Have them
What's the tools for that?
What does a 60-day onboarding plan look like? What do I need to learn from a shop perspective? What processes and methods do we need them to follow and really understand? How do we quote jobs, as an example? What skills and knowledge do they need to uncover shop wise and or the business wise, like whatever.
It's like the terms and all that.
And or objectives. What do we want to accomplish? What does success look like as far as specific goals and objectives in the first 60 days of your employment here, or 90 days of your employment here? That could be number of network touches, my network I'm going to reach out to as a new hire. That could be referral asks of current customers. That could be amount of revenue that I bring in those first 60 or 90 days. Like, that plan up front to have them come on and be productive and efficient as quickly as possible, super important. It's almost as important as hiring the right person is setting them up for success and
with those numbers
and getting your, what was it? The gravy precipice, getting them to that point,
the gravy plus train
as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Onboarding is going to be super, super impactful. The metricing and KPI portion of that is a really important part of that onboarding. This should happen not when onboarding, it should happen even prior. It should happen in the interview process. So clarity on the role. Yes, you are going to be fielding inbound quote requests and inbound outreach, but a big portion of your role 75%, 60%, whatever, is going to be you proactively going outbound and helping us build a book of business.
I'll be honest. I feel like if you're doing inbound, it's a lot easier. And so naturally as humans, we want to take the easier path. And so we'll spend more time on the inbound,
100%.
but not do the outbound. So like I've always found it tricky to balance, to have one person do both.
Yes.
Is that a,
yes.
And even then it's like, how do you commission that differently? And maybe that's too complicated. So is it really two different roles, you think, at some point, or what is it?
It 1000% has to be two separate roles. But if this shop doesn't have the luxury of having multiple people in those seats and they only have one person, the only way to measure and track and monitor it is with metrics, with KPIs. So yes, it's so much easier to manage inbound orders, and that's more fun. Somebody raises their hand and say, hey, I want to do business with your shop. That's way easier than me cold calling you and asking you if you want to buy shirts.
Got it.
Way different. So if they are doing both, there has to be a portion of their job that you just meticulously review as far as metrics of calls, emails, visits, mailings, samples sent. All of those things need to be tracked. And if they get sucked into that inbound flow because it's funner, it's easier work, they're not going to be in that portion long because they're missing 60, 75% of their role, which should be outbound or whatever that number is. But being really clear up front in the interview process of, hey, Bruce, this isn't just a sit back, relax and let orders come in job. There's going to be a portion of that. And we've built a good reputation. People will come inbound, but a big portion of it is going to be you going outbound and driving net new opportunities for us and finding people that aren't working with us today. And we're going to measure and track and give you the support you need. There has to be that measurement and communication up front.
Okay. Again, I'm going to challenge the measurement aspect at the shop level size. How do we keep it simple so it's ready to go, on Monday, as far as maybe 2-3 metrics, right? Because there's a lot, but it's hard when you don't have all the tools. You maybe haven't implemented those things yet. What are the top few that could be of interest? And my brain goes to when we talked to Dan again, when he was doing outreach via, I think it's like rocket emails or one of those things that you mentioned.
Rocket mail, maybe.
Yeah. And basically it was, okay, I've exported all of these leads, and because you've talked about this, you can create criteria of the companies that you're looking for based on revenue and size and the contact and so on and so on. All right, cool. I've got the list of those. I can import those into, Front App or whatever everyone's using.
It's an email tool, yeah.
And then be able to customize and send stuff out. I guess that's an easy way on Front to be able to see like maybe outbound email, how many emails sent.
That's a good metric. If you want like simplest form, I look at activities and then the outcomes from those activities. So activities, calls, emails, visits, samples dropped off, LinkedIn connection requests sent, just like list out all the activities, list out all the stuff that you need to do, even like leads added, number of leads that you pull from a tool or that you find in Google or whatever the approach is. Those are all the activity metrics, the input metrics.
Okay.
And then outcome comes from that.
Okay.
That's, I solidified a meeting. I ran a meeting. I quoted a job. I closed an opportunity. Like all of that comes after the fact. I've got a template that I'd be happy to share.
Cool. That's Kevin at setsales.co.
Kevin at sales.ink. Kevin at sales.ink. Yeah. Feel free to reach out. I'll share an easy template to follow.
All right. That'll be in the description as well. Also, there's a tool that we used to use a lot called Close CRM, which I still think is pretty good as a starting CRM. And I can't remember, maybe it's $50 a month per user, but you can see that reporting really easily. You can see the number of emails and calls made and the opportunities created right inside there. Yeah. Maybe HubSpot does the same, but Close was so simple to me.
All those CRMs do that easy tracking, really easy tracking and dashboarding. Again, if you haven't invested in one of those tools, you can do it in an Excel sheet. You can do it in a Google sheet.
Yeah.
I almost always do that in a Google sheet, even if I have it in a dashboard, because it forces that sales rep to take that data out of the CRM and manually plug in that number. And if they hit that metric, they're happy and it gives that dopamine release. If they didn't hit that number, it's painful to plug it in, and they don't want to have to plug that in week over week, having that number being down or not at their goal.
Okay. These are huge tactics on the outbound side. Are there any other systems, processes, maybe even downloadables that you have that could be used to get started? And I'm thinking even basic, it could be what to email, what to send out, what to say on a phone call, or leave a voicemail.
There's a lot that you can package under like, what is our outbound strategy? What is this go to market? What is this opportunity creation strategy? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of components in that. You talked a lot about like messaging and language. What are we using? What are we saying? How are we communicating? Which is important, but that should be part of, I think most rudimentary is just part of a campaign. This is not, I'm going to call my list a couple times, or I'm going to send a couple emails and see what happens. It's all campaign driven. I've talked about this at length. It's got to be 10 plus touches. It's got to be multi-channel. It can't just be email. It's got to be email, call, LinkedIn.
And this is why the owner cannot do it also, because it's
a great point.
It's an iceberg of a problem, or not problem. It's an iceberg of like a challenge in that you only see the immediate outreach, the first email, the first phone call, whatever. You don't see the follow-ups. You talk about 10 follow-ups. You're right.
Love that. And it is almost a full-time job. Doesn't mean that the owner can't block off 2 or 3 hours every day, stay uber organized and stay efficient to stay on track. But the amount of time and effort and energy to do this well, it's going to take a lot.
And so for the last part, I think is ongoing support. So you've talked about this for supporting someone here, whether it's like, I guess, check-ins, constantly making sure they've got what they need and so on. How do you think about that as a sales leader for a small team and helping them be most successful? Like, okay, let's say we did the onboarding, we did all the training and that stuff. Let's say we're in, month 3.
Yeah. A one-on-one is a perfect example. Like, I don't know why, but I don't find a lot of shop owners doing like individual one-on-one meetings with their team members with a really, really succinct agenda of what's working, what's not working. Where do you need support from me? Let's review your KPIs. And now let's have an open discussion. I stole like a traction EOS model of IDS, identify, discuss, solve. You and I both put IDS issues in this list, and we'll knock them out. We'll talk together and support them.
Okay, that's a great point. So these are things that sales reps bring up that, okay, these are challenges I run into, why I can't close a deal, or what's a
friction in my role, why I can't close a deal. Like anything that happens, any issue, challenge, or concern that either I, the shop owner, or the salesperson has, they add it to IDS. What I just use is a running Google Doc. And at the top of that doc is our meeting that's set up Tuesdays at 9 a.m. And that salesperson and me as the owner are adding items to IDS throughout the week that are not urgent.
I love that.
They're important for us to talk about. And we jump in and we review those friction points, and we identify the problem, we discuss, and then try to come to resolution. We try to solve it in that meeting. So that one-on-one is an important point.
How often should you be doing one-on-ones?
Every week at minimum. Every week at minimum. Think about it. 30 minutes. If I can't give my employee 30 minutes of my time as an owner every week, I'm not, there's no way that you can run a sustainable long-term business if you can't step out of the business for 30 minutes to support your key employees, especially those ones that are going to help you in the long term drive your revenue.
Sure.
You have to do it every week.
Wow.
And think about that as a sales team member. I have this defined time once a week to sit down with my owner to get all of my problems fixed. Like you're not going to go a long time without not getting in front of that person that can get you answers and that can work with you side by side to overcome any challenges that you're facing. So it's super, super important.
Wow. Okay.
So
that's more frequent than I thought.
Yeah.
I did every other week.
Don't you buy into that though? Once a week?
I think my tricky part is that it was easy to skip sometimes, and I got in a weird habit of like skipping and kind of doing every 2 to 3 weeks as a check-in. Yeah. And it was hard. I think the part that was difficult, and it depends on the role, right? Because some roles don't have as many friction points, and it's just like they're just cranking and they're doing the thing.
Yep.
But I do think sales, you're right, has more friction points, and it's easy to go back to, all right, are we hitting our numbers or not? And if we aren't, that one-on-one feels even more important to say, why aren't we? And let's go over this for 30 minutes.
Yeah, you've made a big investment as a shop owner to bring that person in.
Yeah.
Let's really focus on this. You mentioned one thing that I see, two main traps that I see with shop owners and one-on-ones. One, they punt. They're like, yeah, we're busy. Let's do it later in the week, or they reschedule it for the next week. Think about how that would feel to a salesperson. That is their one time each week that they can get in front of their owner and get answers. That shows to me that my time isn't important with meeting with me. Like that's not a good precedence to set. Number two, we use that as a time, owners, to get updates on deals or opportunities. This is not our time as the owner. This is our employees' time to help them and support them in their role. So I've even done this myself where it's like, hey, what's going on with this opportunity? Did we close this deal yet? What happened with this? Where are we at with this? Let's take a step out of that and step into, how can I best support them? What do they need from me? How can I help? Like that's really the point of a one-on-one.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. What about when to fire? When is it not working? How long do you give someone? Because this is the tough part. You spent a lot of time recruiting, interviewing, training, the one-on-ones, the meetings, setting all this stuff up. And I mean, I got to be honest. I'm just like, let me give him another month. Let me give him another month. And, it's like 6 months later, and I probably should have parted ways before, but I dreaded rehiring and doing this whole thing again.
Oh, it's hard. Recruit, hire, train, onboard again. That is so time consuming. We all do that. We'll like let them roll. Maybe they'll be fine. I read something the other day. It's like, if you ask yourself the question, would you rehire this person? You wrote this. If you ask the question, would you rehire this person, and you say no, you got to get rid of them. Yeah. Like if you wouldn't make that hiring decision
very
again,
black and white.
That was a great article, by the way. The process that we follow for measuring and tracking salespeople, it's pretty quantitative. It's pretty numbers driven. Mm-hmm. So if they're not performing and they're not hitting,
how long? How many months?
So that's why we should have a performance management structure and system in place. So I can see the metrics, I can see the measurement. If they're following it and hitting it, great. If they're not, we have performance management conversations. The approach that I follow starts with a focus month. So if they don't do well and aren't performing well, I put them on a focus month, meaning we're just going to focus on a few key areas and we're going to try to drive up and improve some of these metrics in your scorecard.
How many months if they're not doing well?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
So we got the focus month. Then
is it 3 or is it 2 or what?
And maybe the focus month is a 2-week period if they're really not performing well. Then I do a coaching plan, meaning it's a little bit more stringent and more of a documented plan of that focus month didn't go well. We didn't hit these 3 metrics. Here's what you need to do in your coaching 2 weeks or coaching month. Mm-hmm. And these are those metrics. And usually I look at both activity and output metrics. It's not just revenue that they're bringing in, but it's what's going to drive the revenue. Okay. And if they don't do well in that coaching month or that coaching 2-week period, I put them on a performance improvement plan, which is the same thing, 2 weeks or a month, and it's more stringent. And then they know if they don't perform in those 2 weeks or that month that we're cutting ties. So there's no, when do I make the decision? It's my performance management is 3 months and here's how it's documented. Or my performance management is 6 weeks and it's 2 weeks of a focus month, 2 weeks of a focus plan, 2 weeks of a coaching plan, and 2 weeks of a performance improvement plan.
Yeah. I think what I found tricky is if they're an A player, you see it pretty quickly.
Right away.
You understand it right away. Yeah, you see it. They're out of the gate. They're performing. They're doing all the things. They're excited. They're asking tons of questions. They're taking notes. If they're an F player, a D, you see it also right away. They're not showing up. They're like missing phone calls or meetings is very clear. I think the B and C is unclear as far as what to do, especially if it's towards the C.
Yep.
It's like, well, you give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's do a month here. Okay, we see, all right, they didn't do so well. Let me try again the next month. Let's see how they do. So is it, you think 2 months, maybe 3 is an optional, and that 3rd is like the performance improvement plan gray area?
I think that's a logical time frame, But again, you have to take the subjectivity and gut feeling out of this.
Yeah.
Should I fire him? Should I not? You don't need to ask yourself that and analyze that question. You need to build a performance improvement and a performance management plan to know that if they don't hit this, they're gone, and they know that as well.
Yeah.
And it's only fair to those employees that, like, am I going to get fired? They don't know. They'll know now if they don't hit these metrics. Again, with sales being quantitative, it's, in my opinion, a pretty easy way to performance manage people versus someone that you can't really measure in metric.
Whew, just makes me queasy thinking about having to rehire, especially when your team is so small that you as the owner are jumping back into the role to do
every hire counts.
You're
right. It makes such a big difference.
I mean, I think this is amazing. Look, leave comments if you have questions about, if you're in this range and you want to be able to hit the million, leave comments, reach out, Kevin@sales.inc. You've got the sales.inc cohort. Can people get in? They go to sales.inc and that's where the info is.
Yeah. Sales.ink. And I also just launched Sales Inc. Academy. So these smaller shops that we're talking about, a lot of like under 500,000 in revenue shops will want to do work with a coach or consultant, but sometimes don't have the budget to do so. So I took most of the content that I would typically work in a one-on-one engagement and put it into just coursework, put it into some learning, some videos, some downloadable content. So at a much lower price point, they can access a lot of that content and just kickstart their sales approach.
Amazing. All right. We got Kevin Baumgart here again. Hold on. We actually have to go back in this episode. So Kevin and I were just talking really quickly, like kind of recording, kind of not. And we were like, hold on. We got to get this actually on the episode. So there's two different things that we really wanted to quickly mention, because I think this is actually very helpful. So let's rewind really quick. And the first part, quoting and what you're talking about being unapologetic. What was that?
Being unapologetically aggressive.
Yeah.
When we're following up on quotes, I think two scenarios. One, when we're following up on quotes, and one when we're following up on quote requests or contact us forms.
Okay.
When people are coming inbound or when we've already quoted a job, there is no reason why we should only reach out to them once or twice or three times. Like if they raised their hand and said, hey, Kevin from Kevin Shirts, I want you to quote this job. I need X amount of shirts. And then they are just silent. Like we should get aggressive in that follow-up. Worst case scenario, they say, hey, Kevin, lay off. Like you've reached out to me so much. I'm never going to do business with your shop again. Likelihood of that happening is really, really low. And if they do say that, the likelihood of them ever ordering anything from you was low to start with. So why not get aggressive in that outreach? Why not be that person? Get back to them quickly. Lead response time is so critical. When they get that lead in, all the data shows that conversion rates skyrocket if we can get back to them really, really quickly. So get back to them and get aggressive with that follow-up to make sure that you can get that time set to learn about how you can help them and what you can provide. And then when we quote, there's a ton of ghosting in our industry, right? Like people ghost all the time, and it almost always happens after we've given a price. Mm-hmm. So if we've quoted, there should be next steps dialed in. We should know the order in hand date or shirt in hand date, and we should back into when they need to make a decision by and give us that order. There's no reason why after we quote that we don't have time in the calendar with them, another follow-up meeting to figure out. I sometimes even put it in the calendar as a go, no go meeting. Like, let's decide, go forward. If you're going to partner with us, great. We can talk about the logistics and move everything forward. If you're not going to partner with us, that's okay too. Let's at least know. I don't want to have to chase you. And I know you don't want to have me chase you as well.
So when you send out a quote, let's say someone emails it in, you sent out that quote. Are you also sending out the question of, hey, when can I follow up with you? I'll give you a call. Does one of these two times work?
Yeah. So the quote and hope stuff that we always talk about, like especially if it's the first time they're reaching out to us or if it's the first time they came inbound, I don't like to just email that quote over. I like to actually sit down with them and go over it live. And at the end of that meeting, before I review the quote with them, now I got them live. We're answering questions. We're talking through it. I'm getting feedback on how they feel about it. Now I'm scheduling this next steps. If I didn't do that meeting, why not say, hey, I know you need to make a decision by the 10th. I'm going to put time on our calendar for the 9th. Let me know if 9 a.m. works for you, or I'll just send a 9 a.m. invite. And we can decide if it makes sense to move forward or if we're not going to partner, all good as well. just to like really hammer home on that, get in front of them. I get pushback often. Like a lot of businesses in our industry care about their brand and their image and they're cool. And it's like, we're a pretty laid back industry as a whole. That doesn't mean that we can't be professional and really just arduous in our outreach and follow up. Like it's all good. And I would bet more than, hey, Kevin, you're annoying me. That's way too much. Like slow your roll. I bet you get, hey, thanks for following up. I've been crazy. I appreciate your persistence.
Yeah.
I honestly bet you get that more often.
And maybe, do you think it could also be, hey, can I text or call you, tomorrow at 10 to follow up on this quote?
That's better than nothing, but even better than that is I'm putting time in our calendars so you and I have this calendar invite set. I don't know why is an industry.
So it sends an invite as well.
Yeah, they got an invite. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure.
And that blocks their time off so they don't forget about it, which I'm sure they will. And on yours, and that's the time you can call them and just reach out. And it doesn't have to, like, we're not talking about a meeting on Zoom or something, right? I mean, it's just, hey, this is the time I'm calling you. It's 15-minute block.
Yep. And then,
what about, are these all for all orders, or is it a certain dollar range like shops want to do it above? It's like $500 and up.
If I'm taking the time and effort to run a discovery and understand what they need, and then taking the time and effort to quote it and go through that process, I should be willing to put the time and the effort in to follow up and making sure that I get an answer.
Damn. That kind of hits hard. I mean, because my thoughts are, wow, this is a lot of time, but you're right. This is just a better quality follow-up.
Yeah.
Than just, hey, just checking in. Are we good to go? Or like whatever.
I'm glad you said that. The worst email that you can send is, hey, it's Kevin from Kevin's Shirts, just checking in, wanted to follow up and see, like, that's not valuable. Like a better approach, a better email would be, hey, this is Kevin with Kevin's Shirts. We seem to have lost touch. I'm wondering where we go from here, ... Like just
that's good.
Something to like get them to actually respond. Not like hey, following up, checking in.
Yeah.
Like that shows like desperation and I really need this order. It seems like we have lost touch, wondering where we go from here. It's just a little bit of a different way to say that. And like psychologically, maybe a little bit more apt to respond to something like that.
I love it.
So again, get aggressive with that outreach. Like there's no reason why we shouldn't be really, really hitting folks that raise their hand and say they want to do business with us or that we've already quoted. We got to get answers. I don't know is, in my opinion, so much worse than a no.
Let's get aggressive. I love it. You mentioned something about niches right after you were like, yeah, it's interesting because in this revenue range where we're talking about maybe like the 300 to 600K, we tend to be doing everything, taking orders from everywhere. You definitely see the larger businesses have picked a niche. They're nailed in. They want to be the best at whatever they're doing in that little space. How do you really pick, right? Because sometimes that means you're saying no to others. And that's a hard thing to do when you use that to scrape and claw to the 500K.
I don't know if you need to say no. By the way, is it niches or is it niches?
Niche.
I like niches make riches. So I'll just say niches.
Okay.
I don't think you need to say no to other things to hang your hat on a market. The reason why I think this is important for like a shop approaching and wanting to get to that $1 million in revenue mark is that if I talk to shops that are over $1 million in revenue, if you ask them what their core target focused market is, almost all of them off the cuff will be able to just shout it out. They're not going to have to think. They're not going to have to do an analysis of their data. They're going to know our market is X. We do a lot of things for a lot of people, but our primary market is X. So my recommendation would be like, figure that out early. And what I would do first is look at your customers. Where's the majority of your revenue coming from? Where are your most profitable customers today? In what market or what industry are they in? And pick one and figure out how to exploit it. So go to all the competitors of the people that you already work with, create messaging and language about how you are the most widely used apparel provider for X industry and X geography. No one's going to check you on that. So like you can make those statements and say that this is our industry. We know your space. We understand you. I'll give you an example. I work with a shop that started to work with like their local fire department and their local like first responders, EMS crew. They did all the uniform and they do a bunch of fundraisers and sell shirts. And it's like, it's good. It's a good apparel based industry, a good business. They did their like local folks, and then they started branching out to like the counties surrounding, and then they did their state. Now they go to the National Firefighters Convention, whatever, and they exhibit and they bring on firefighter stations and houses and departments all over the country. They have built a business around that. It doesn't have to, don't go after firefighters. Go after, like, figure out an industry, figure out a niche. There are so many out there. And even if someone's already doing it, think about band merch. Every shop does band merch. A lot of shops do band merch, right? Like, there's a lot of space in a lot of those markets.
The other good part I think about that is when I think about how we at Printavo really focused on apparel for a shop. So if you sell majority apparel, that's generally the target customer for us, right? And what that helped do, though, is also streamline the people we brought on and the training that we did with them. So the offering that we were building and the products was all driven towards that. It could, to the firefighters, like, everything was so focused on making it the best product and service offering for, firefighters or for print shops or whatever, apparel for shops, and okay to say no to others. And then also when we brought people on, like new hires, it was so focused on their training as far as being so ingrained. I'm assuming they do the same with firefighters and this and all the tooling and all that stuff is so. It was just so narrowed in, we could really dive deeper instead of go wider.
I love that. And you get to start to understand and know the industry. You get to understand the vernacular. You get to understand like the wording that they use in the industry, and you can connect with them quicker, and you can build rapport and build trust much quicker. Like I know about this industry because I work with people like you all day, every day. And here's what I found. Like, here's what they really care about. That's a different message and language than, hey, we do screen and embroidery and DTG. Like, do you want to buy some shirts? Wow. It's way different.
That actually hits. That's really cool. Especially because I'm sure their website's branded, more firefighter.
For sure.
The stuff they wear, how they talk, you're right. The terminology, the people they hang out with, they're ingrained.
Yeah. That approach of really focusing on that, not foregoing other business, not continuing to work with all of our current clients, but as we go outbound, really figuring out what is the niche or the industry that we want to focus on, and really, really doubling down on that.
Love it.
One more.
Let's do it.
All right. If you're trying to approach that $1 million mark, the people that are going to help get you there, likely anyone that's in like a customer facing role, account manager, customer success person, the inbound order taker, maybe it's you as the shop owner, just trying to figure out a way to get as much revenue from your current customers as you can. So getting involved, asking them tough questions like, hey, who else are you using outside of us for any apparel or hard good promotional decoration? Is there any other providers that you're using?
It's an awkward question, but
it's an awkward question. But if you don't ask, you don't know the answer to, and you could be missing out on a lot of revenue.
Sure.
Or ask for the referral. A lot of times those shops that are approaching that $1 million, they're always asking for Google reviews. I love that. And you should get good reviews, but that's not a direct correlation to money in your pocket. If they refer someone, if you ask for a referral, they refer someone that buys from you, that's a revenue hit immediately. And what's the difference if you have 20, 50 or 300 5-star reviews? Like, it's not going to, people aren't going to say, all right, because they only have 29 Google reviews, I'm not going to buy from them. That likely won't happen. So levering on referrals and making that tough ask and being specific in that ask and saying, hey, who else do you know? Who else do you network with? What other business owners in the community do you work with that could maybe use the services that I provide? Would you be willing to make an email intro to just one person for me? I'll send you the email intro connection. You can just copy and paste that into an email. I'll make it really easy for you, but levering on that. If that person that's managing the current customer revenue is not you, it's not the owner, I want to know the types of conversations that they're having, and I want to be able to support them and train them and coach them. If someone on your team is managing a big chunk of your revenue, you better be all over understanding how you can help and support them. And in my opinion, the only way to do that is through recording reviews, through call reviews. Mm-hmm. So why am I not taking a half an hour out of my week to listen to 2 or 3 calls that individual had and provide them with strong feedback?
And by the way, on close.com, which I mentioned, probably on HubSpot and some others, you can, when they make a call out, it does record it and you can see that thing and record it.
Even Zoom, like just do a Zoom recording or a Google Meet recording, or your phone system. If you've got a VoIP system, the likelihood of them having some sort of recording functionality, you don't have to even have a CRM to do that.
Good point.
So getting that recording, listening to it, and then giving them feedback. I bet most of those smaller shops, the owners would feel like they are the best customer support person. They feel more confident in a positive outcome of that conversation with the customer because they're the owners. It's their shop, right? If you feel that way, let's get involved in those conversations that our team members are having and just make sure that we are optimizing the amount of revenue that we're getting and coaching to them, and listen to those calls. Play a snippet, play a question, stop it, ask them, say that over again. How might you have asked that differently? Or what's another way? Like if you had to redo, what would you say? And have them repeat it and get that muscle memory of like how you can really improve. And if they don't know, you can help load their lips and help give them an ideas of like strategy, approach, talk tracks, really, really hammering down on any customer facing employees and just trying to push as much revenue as we can out of our current customers. I think is really beneficial.
Good time spent. Difficult to wrap your brain around, but probably has the highest ROI of spending time anywhere else in the business.
For sure.
Okay. Kevin at sales.inc. Again, reach out to him. INK. .ink. All right, pronouncers.
Thanks.
We'll see you guys in the next week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. We always appreciate you guys. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the emails and all the feedback that we get from this show. It is really fun to be able to run it. And have a great week. Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully that was informative. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications if you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy all the stuff we're putting out, it's really helpful. We love to just be able to see it. That means that we're doing a good job. To subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and hit the like button. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.